In the last episode, I'll walk you through what you could buy if you were looking to buy a townhouse in Cornell Markham. In this video, similarly, if you want to know what you can buy if you have a budget of just under $700,000 in the heart of Downtown Markham in Unionville, this is definitely a video you don't want to miss. Welcome back, I'm Antonio, a local real estate agent in the GTA. Here's a little favor, if you enjoy the content, please hit the like button and also consider subscribing to the channel. Like I said before, I know there's a large number of you watching the videos, but you are not subscribed to the channel. Please help me and I will greatly appreciate it. Here is the thing, if you are looking for a budget under $700,000 in Unionville Markham, we are definitely not looking for a townhouse, but instead it will be a condo unit. More specifically, in this budget, you could get a great 1-bedroom plus den unit. Let's put that into perspective by understanding what the price of a 1-bedroom plus den unit was before the second interest rate hike happened this year. I know, I sounded like a broken record, but I just quickly want to summarize for those who are new to real estate in Toronto. Basically, in 2022, a huge 10-month interest rate hike was announced and interrupted the entire housing market due to the high inflation numbers. Unsurprisingly, housing demand took a deep dive, but early in 2023, there was a rate pause and the housing market went upward, almost matching prices before the 2022 rate hike, which is pretty high in my opinion. And once again, when the inflation went the other way in June, we had another 2 months of rate hikes in June and July. As a result, the market tanks again with no surprise. But what is surprising is the fall market in which we are anticipating the market bounce back. And with the news of interest rate pause again, this time it was just historically bad. Buyers are still sitting on the sideline and sales are just not great. Let's be realistic. Although the interest rate paused for 2 more consecutive times, the interest is already high. There is really no other way to describe that. Qualifying for mortgages is just getting harder and stricter. The only positive outcome of this is that the Bank of Canada is starting to ease the interest rate, and hopefully we can build towards the stability in 2024. Here is a summary of all the 1-bedroom plus den condo unit in Unionville Markham. I compiled it in terms of each month by month from the beginning of the year until the present, as of recording of this video on October 28th. Before we start analyzing the data, first I would like to address some details that could be misleading. For example, terminations don't all mean that the listing didn't sell, but the same listing could end up being relisted and possibly sold after. A prime example is that when one listing terminates 2 or 3 times, it doesn't mean that there were 2 or 3 listings that didn't sell. And price change also doesn't automatically assume a price reduction, but instead it could also mean that when the attractive low listing price that was set up for bidding war ends up not selling, usually the seller could release at a higher price, which is what they originally wanted. In addition, when I showed next for the highest price sold and the lowest price sold, this unit was simply the highest and the lowest 1 plus 10 unit that were sold in that month. And obviously I was ignoring the condition of the condo unit, such as the newer or older building, the location, amenity, number of washrooms and size of the units, etc. So getting that out of the way, let's get started. From January, we only had 3 sales, and the highest price sold was $700,000 and the lowest price was $690,000. Typically, sales are slow during the winter in January, so nothing is too crazy, and we only had 1 listing that was suspended, 1 that was expired, and 3 that was terminated. The major event started in February when the Bank of Canada decided to pause interest rates. Sales slightly improved to 5, but obviously nothing too crazy, and the highest sold price went up a little to $725,000 and the lowest sold price was $615,000. Since the market does take some time to react, the March sales went up to 17 in total, and that was expected when the spring season was usually the busiest season for real estate and added new for rate pause. The highest price sold increased to $758,000 and the lowest price sold also increased a little to $619,000 in March. And it is worth noting that there was only 1 expired listing. As the rate pause continues, in April, the highest price sold dropped to $721,000. It doesn't mean the selling price dropped, but it could possibly mean that there were no larger units were sold. The lowest price sold increased to $635,000 in March. We have sold a total of 12 units, a slight drop from 17 sales in the previous month, but there were no terminations, suspensions, or price changes. In May, we had the highest sold unit in 18. The highest price sold increased to $668,000, and the lowest price sold also increased to $645,000 with only 3 terminations. Now in June, we have finally reached the peak of this year so far. Granted, sales dropped to 10 only from 18 sales the previous month. The highest price sold was $772,000 and the lowest price sold was $647,000. $772,000 was the highest sold price for all 1-bed plus 10 unit in Unionville. If you recall, June is the first time the Bank of Canada announced in 2023 to increase the interest rate by 0.25%. This obviously impacted the sales for the month. Another 0.25% interest hike was announced in July again, and as a result, sales were down to only 5 total in July. This has a huge impact. The highest price sold was similar to the previous month at $771,000 and the lowest price sold was marginally down to $645,000. Selling prices really didn't change much. The most obvious impact was the amount of sales. The terminated transactions started to trend up to 7 with 2 suspended transactions. The downward stress continued in August. Although sales went from 5 to 10 in August, we could see that there was a lot more pressure in prices when we saw the dip for the highest price sold at $756,000, a $15,000 less from the previous month. However, the lowest price increased to $660,000. More notable was that the terminated transaction climbed to double digit with 11, and there was 1 new listing in August. Moving on to the fall market in September, there was some kind of optimism during this time, hoping that a rebound typically happens during normal years. Also, the Bank of Canada decided to pause the interest rate again due to pressure from people having problem with added pressure from mortgage expenses and also because inflation is easing a little bit. Sales didn't improve much at 9, which didn't improve at all. Terminations at 10, price changes started to show up at 2, and more new listings at 4. All this was not a healthy sign, and we all know that overall, in the entire GTA, sales were worse. The real estate really didn't catch up to the expectation. Although we have the interest rate pause, the interest is still at the highest we've seen in years. The buyers are still not confident enough to be active in the market. However, we start to see more new listings showing up as expected during the fall. The highest selling price at $756,000 and the lowest selling price at $670,000 didn't move much from the previous month. In this pocket of Unionville, clearly we don't see sellers panic selling. I know that there can be other neighborhoods with a bigger drop in prices, but this is an example of the difference from neighborhood to neighborhood. Finally, approaching October, as we expected, prices continues to drop. Although we have the second consecutive interest rate pause, the highest price sold in October was $713,000, with the highest price drop of $42,700 from the previous month, and the lowest price sold of $660,000, a $10,000 difference from last month. Sales remain steady only at 9, and terminations continue to be double digits with 11, and price changes increased to 4, and 2 suspensions, and a huge increase in new listing at 15. More sellers have obviously waited long enough and decided to list the property during the second best season, but not many sales are successful. If you take a look at the entire year from rate pause in February through May, then rate hike in June and July, and back to rate pause in September and October, it was just like a roller coaster. But for this particular area in Unionville Markham, it didn't change much in terms of condo prices. At a glance, from January at $700,000 to October at $713,000, it seems that it didn't change much. If we compare the peak in June at $772,000 to October at $713,000, 13,000, the difference was about 58,000, a roughly 8% drop. It wasn't much of a drop off compared to other regions in the GTA. Let's get a closer look at what you can get if you were to look for a 1-bedroom plus den unit in Unionville. As of the recording of this video at the end of October, this is currently listed for sale in Unionville. 8 Rouge Valley Drive, Unit 808. This is a fantastic 1-bedroom plus den unit with 571 square feet unit size with 2 bathrooms. It was listed at 568,000. Remember that we went through the sale prices and it is closer to 700,000 for a 1 plus den unit. This is obviously a price to attract multiple offers. As you can see, this is in the broker remarks where it states that the offer review date is October 30th. Let's take a closer look at this condo building at 8 Rouge Valley Drive. This is York Condos by Remington Group. If you watched my past video, this was one of the buildings that I reviewed earlier. If you are interested, feel free to click on the video here above to watch it. This is the past sale of this building at 8 Rouge Valley Drive from January to October 2023. In this building, there weren't any sales until May 1st when it sold for 752,000. And then in June, this unit on the 6th floor sold for the highest price at 772,000 during the interest rate hike announcement. Immediately, the next unit that was sold a week later went down to 700,000. In July, for some reason, another similar unit sold for 750,000, and the most recent sales in early October sold for 700,000. With the current temperature of the real estate, I would say if you can get a similar unit under 20,000 at 670,000 to 680,000, that would be a negotiable target if you were interested in this building. Your condo was built in 2021, a less than 2-year-old building. Prices, as expected, are closer to 1,100 per square foot. If we would compare it to the peak, which was sold for 772,000, that would be close to 1,250 per square foot. This is a discount of about 12% from the peak. Overall, depending on which building you are interested in, if you can get a discount price under 9 to 12% from the peak, that will be the realistic price target where the current sellers are adapting. I'm not saying that it won't go down any further, but from what is happening with the consecutive interest rate pause, it doesn't seem raising the interest will be the plan for now, especially when the forecast for most of the banks suggests that a rate cut could occur in late 2024 or 2025. The current price reduction, in my opinion, does not significantly improve affordability because the interest rate that determines the mortgage payment is substantially greater than the price reduction. Hoping for the price to drop further, which means the interest will be substantially higher, would kind of defeat the purpose. Clearly, the current house prices were only affected by the higher interest rate, not because there was not enough demand. Please comment down below if you think that it is not true, and I am really curious to hear your opinion. I hope you find the answer from this video about how realistically you can get the 1-bedroom plus den unit in Unionville, Downtown Markham. If you have any inquiries, don't hesitate to contact me using the link in the description below. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video.